we'll be dealing with the topical questions of CIE Economics, which is from your very first chapter, which is Basic Economics Idea, which is the chapter 1. So let's get started with the very first question, which is many governments are concerned that the higher sugar content in fizzy drinks might lead to health problems such as obesity. These governments are also concerned about the lack of public awareness of the dangers. So now understand the question here, which states that fizzy drinks might lead to health problems, and the governments are concerned that there is lack of public awareness of the dangers. So which highlights a very important aspect of information failure, because something is harmful and you lack the information. One party has the information and the other party lacks the information. So this is clearly the case of information failure. So it's very obvious it's option A. And let's look why other options couldn't be your answer. Consumers underconsume fizzy drinks. No way, because consumers are lacking information, so they are obviously overconsuming. Fizzy drinks are merit goods. Not possible, because merit goods are goods which has positive externalities to the third party. It yields benefits to the third party, but there is no any signs of benefits. It's just harm. And third is fizzy drinks are non-excludable. No, non-excludable and non-rival are your public goods, but this is not at all your public good. Now let's move towards the next question. What is least likely to happen if a firm decides to increase automation and division of labor in its production process? So understand the term here, least likely to happen. Let's start looking at the options from backwards. An increase in the number of workers employed. Obviously, it will happen because there is division of labor. For division of labor, you need to understand that there should be a large mass of workers. So, yeah, it is likely to happen that you increase your workers employed. An increase in firms' profits. Obviously, you are trying to increase productivity. You're trying to produce more because you are increasing automation and division of labor. So, obviously, there'll be an increase in firms' profits. An increase in productivity. This is the most obvious thing. So the least thing that can ever happen is an increase in cost per unit. It's not saying that there will not be any increase in cost. There might be increase in cost per unit, but that's the least from all the options given here. Now let's move towards the next question, which is Economy X uses its resources in the labor-intensive production of wheat and wooden furniture. So always remember there are two products, wheat and wooden furniture. And your PPC is a diagrammatic tool which shows the relationship between the production of two units of goods, whatever it be, good A, good B, capital goods, consumer goods, any goods. So it is, in this case, it is wheat and wooden furniture, shown by production possibility curve FW. So all the lines that are drawn in black are your original production possibility curve. Now, with the help of new strains of wheat seeds, X increased yields are shifted to a new production possibility curve, which diagram depicts this change. Now, understand here that only one item is changing. Wheat is only changing because new strains of wheat seeds. They introduced new seeds for wheat in the market, which yield greater production. It's not at all talking about furniture. So option A is clearly wrong, because if you follow the arrow of option A, it indicates that your furniture is increasing and wheat is also increasing. But this is totally not the case. Same is with option B, because in this case, both are increasing. If you look at option C, wheat is increasing. So this is your correct answer as per the question. And D is not correct because in this case, furniture is increasing. However, the question says it's wheat. So understand the question and understand the properties of production possibility curve. Now let's move towards question number 4. To overcome the problem of scarcity, countries with few natural resources need to concentrate on the quality of human resources. Which set of policies would be more appropriate? Natural resources policy, human resources policy. So in this case, how do you answer such type of question? I really don't know much about natural resources policy. So it would be wise for me to look towards a table that says human resources policy. Now, if you look at all these options, discourage automation. Even if you discourage automation, we're looking at option B, right? Even if you discourage automation, what will happen is you will get more laborers, but you are not ensured with the quality of laborers because you're not giving them any skills, there's no training. It's just that the number of laborers employed will increase. So this is increasing the quantity, but not the quality. Protect jobs in manufacturing. Even if you protect jobs, obviously this will also increase the quantity, not the quality, and restrict influx of skilled migrants. Even if this is done, you are not increasing quality in any form. But if you use improved education and training, what are you making? You're building capable manpower. We're increasing the quality of human resources. So clearly over here, improved education and training is the best and most appropriate policy for human resource policy, which means that develop renewable energy supplies becomes a natural resource policy. Because if you look, natural resource policy, it is very difficult for you to decide upon because allocation of resources is also important, right? It's also important to protect land resources, but you can understand with the help of quality of human resource policy. This will help you to clear out your options and you'll not waste much of your time, because if I would have directly looked towards natural resources policy, it would have taken me a lot of time because everything seems so similar and it's difficult for me to differentiate between these options. But it was easier to differentiate the option for human resources policy. So be wise when you do these kinds of questions and do not waste your time. Oh, so question number 5 is also the same question. So you can attempt this as well. Option is A. Let's move towards question number 6. Which types of goods are distinguished from one another by the presence or absence of opportunity cost? These types of questions are easy scoring questions because they are based upon definitions. Now, we need to understand what are free goods. Free goods are goods that where there is absence of opportunity cost, a zero opportunity cost. And economic goods are those goods where there is presence of opportunity cost. Just understand the definition. I can derive the answer without looking at the options just by the question. Presence or absence of opportunity cost. If you know the definition, you can easily answer. So you don't have to look towards any other options and directly circle option number B. However, I'll be telling you the definitions of other options as well. Demerit and merit goods are on the basis of externalities. Demerit goods have negative externality, whereas merit goods have positive externality. So if it's talk about negative and positive externalities, it is demerit and merit goods. Next is inferior goods and normal goods. Inferior goods are goods that are dependent upon income. For example, if your income rises, you purchase less of inferior goods. However, on the other hand, if you increase income, if you have greater income, you purchase more and more of normal goods. So this is the relationship between inferior goods and normal goods. Next is private and public goods. Private goods are the goods which are rival and which are excludable in nature. In a sense, for example, let's say there is a product A. Now, if you buy that product A earlier than another person, then the other person will not be able to get that same very product. Let's say it was a very last and very limited edition product and only one was left, then the other person remains restricted from getting it. However, in the public goods, there it's non-excludable and it's non-rival. For example, street light. If I go and stand on the street light and if I use it, then the other person can also use it for the same purpose, like a view tower, right? Me consuming that good will not cut chances for the other person to consume that good. So that's the difference between private and public goods. So these are all definitions based questions. Once you learn the definitions, it becomes very easier to differentiate between all these types of goods. So let's move towards next question. Question number 7. Farmers using traditional methods lack access to finance and often employ family members on a part-time basis. If working practices in agriculture could be improved, how would this be likely to show on the production possibility curve? Now remember here, it is not at all talking about manufactured goods. It's similar to the question before. Understand which goods it's talking about and which good it is not talking about. It is not at all talking about manufactured goods. It's just talking about agricultural goods where the production is improved, which means that obviously more goods, such goods is produced. Now, S is your initial point here. You need to understand that which will yield improvement in agricultural good. Now, if you see movement from R to T, I'll explain every option. If you see movement from R to T, so this is your R portion. All right, let me draw. And this is your T portion. So now if you look over here, if you go from R to T, what is happening if when you go from R to T? The manufactured goods is decreasing, whereas the agricultural goods is increasing. This is exactly what we want. We want to show an increase in agricultural good, but we don't want to show a decrease in the manufactured good because nowhere in the question mentions about manufactured goods. So option A is wrong answer. A movement from S to R. When you move from S to R, what do you see? You see that your manufactured goods has increased, but the agricultural goods is fixed. This is also not really we want because we want to show an increase in agricultural goods. So this is a wrong answer because it does not show any form of increase in agricultural goods. Now, if you see from S to T, what is happening? Once you go from S to T, your manufactured goods is same because that's the S and T has almost similar manufactured goods. I don't really have a ruler here to measure, but looking at it and drawing lines shows that it is same manufactured goods and agricultural good is increasing from S to T. This is exactly what we want because we really don't know what is happening to manufactured goods. It is not mentioned anywhere in the question, so we keep it fixed. So C is the answer. However, let's look at option D. Movement from T to R. T to I is just reverse of option A. What is happening? Agricultural goods is decreasing and manufactured goods is increasing. However, that's not really what we want to show. So option C is the answer. So whenever you get these kinds of questions like movement from R to T or this to this, make sure that you draw lines and when you draw lines, it becomes very easier for you to compare whether one good is increasing or decreasing. So make sure that you make proper use of the diagrams given. Everything is just there in the question. You just have to be wise enough to understand them. Now let's move towards question number 8. A teacher asks 4 students to fill in the gaps of the following sentence. A positive economic statement is dash 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 statement that can dash be tested using factual evidence, whereas normative economic statement is dash statement that can be dashed using a factual evidence. Okay, the students' answer are shown in the table. Which student is correct? This is your option. So this is also a very easy scoring question. You just need to know the definitions for these, right? Once you know the definition, you can ace it anyway. Understand that positive economic statement is objective, whereas normative economic statement is subjective. So we know what to fill in option number 1 and what to fill in option number 3. This should be objective, this should be subjective. So let's filter out the options. 1 is objective, obviously, so C and D cannot be an answer. And 3 is subjective, so C and D cannot be answer again. So it's either A or either B. You are minimizing options that you save your time. A statement that dashed can be tested. So positive statements can be tested because they are objective. That's what its definition stands for. So you need to know the statement, you need to know the definition. Then objective can. So option 2 here is can. So you know that it should be can. You don't even have to check the 4th option because this is the only possible answer. So option A is the answer. These types of questions are very easy scoring. All you need to know is some definitions, which you can do it. Now let's go towards question number 9. What is an accurate statement about different types of goods? Okay, free goods are offered for sale at loss-making price. No way. Free goods are goods with zero opportunity cost. You don't sell them like water, air, solar energy, the wind energy that you get. It's basically free. Solar energy in a sense like the wind that you use to, or like the sunlight that you use for solar energy. So, right, that's free goods. So, obviously, solar panels aren't free goods, but the sunlight that you get is a free good. So, that's what we're talking when we talk about free goods. Option B is merit goods generate more consumer surplus than producer surplus. Not really. Like, your consumer surplus and producer surplus are not really dependent on merit goods or demerit goods. It is mostly dependent upon the willingness for the consumer to pay. Even if it is a demerit good and if a consumer is willing to pay more, I don't think it would be a problem. So option B is very dicey. It's not really correct. Let's go towards option C. Private goods can be consumed with no opportunity cost. No, these are free goods. Free goods can be consumed with no opportunity cost. So C is also not at all the answer. B, we are very dicey upon. So we just put a question mark here. Option D. Public goods can be used by additional consumers with no extra production costs. Exactly. This is correct. So it's option D. Now, how do you know this is? You have to understand public goods in depth for this. You know, there's a problem of free rider that exists with public goods, which means that one consumer pays for it and all the other enjoys that. So public goods can be used by any additional consumers, one, two, hundreds, thousands, anybody, and there is no extra production cost needed. For example, there's a view tower. It's a one-time investment. You construct it once. Obviously, you have to maintain it, but there is no extra production cost, right? So it can be consumed by any additional consumers with no extra production cost. Those are public goods. And if you charge a view tower, then that's not a public good. It becomes private good then. Right, so if there's a view tower made by some companies, and if they charge a ticket, or like if you have to go and buy some ticket to go and visit that view tower, then that's not a public good. You need to understand that. Those type of goods are not public goods. Now let's move towards the last question, which is, what is always true of a positive statement? It is based on statistical data. Yes, of course, it is based on statistical data, but always, I don't really know. So we keep this as an option until we look towards the other options. It is possible to test its validity. Of course, it is. That's what positive statements are for. It is on the only basis for economic policy. Nah, normative statements are also equally important. It overrides any normative statement. No, this is not an answer. Now, if we look towards option A and B, both are correct, but the question says always true. So, not always your positive statement are based on statistical data, but it is always possible to test the validity of positive statement. So, on the basis of the word always, you take the option B because it is always possible to test its validity. That's its property. It's not always based on statistical data. So this was a topical questions on chapter 1. I just compiled the easiest top 10 questions from this chapter. However, I'll be covering up more such topical questions and opportunity cost and many other chapters. If there's any specific chapter that you would want me to do topical questions of, please let me know in the comment section. Thank you.